Welcome to our regular midweek short devotion. Today's going to be much like all the other devotions. The first part is going to be a nature clip, and it's a good one. It's from some trail cams that I set out, and you have a bobcat on there. It's got some deer, and their antlers are starting to grow back with velvet on them for fall. Is a little fawn. One little fawn so small, if you don't have a good eyesight and don't catch it, you might miss him. Then for the second part of the nature clip, I'm going to share about a very deeply personal time of great regret that I have in my life, and you may be able to empathize with that. I'm going to say I am grateful for all the landowners that are so kind that they let me tromp around on their property and put out trail cams. My mother was only 47 years old when she passed away. I was a young adult, newly married with a baby. Jeremy was just a toddler. And I was in my first full-time church, my second appointment. It was a church planting project, so it had a lot of work to it. And I had a Sunday morning service, a Sunday night service, and a Wednesday night service, plus all the other things that a pastor normally has to do. And I was in southern Illinois. My mother was up in west central Illinois, where we live now, in this area. And we were a little over 100 miles away. I wanted to be a good son, and so I made the trip as much as I could. We knew that Mom was not doing well. The doctors had told us it was just a matter of time. The family was kind of camped out, like happens a lot. And so I would stay up in Rushville. And then when I had to speak on a Wednesday night or whatever it was, I would, or if I had any duty that I had as a pastor, I would make the trip a little over 100 miles down to southern Illinois. I'd do what I was, required to do, whatever was my duty, and I'd come back, and it kind of drug on for a while, and I got really tired. And on a Sunday morning, I drove down to pastor and to preach at my church. Stayed at the parsonage that afternoon, and on Sunday night I had the evening service, and then got out of service fairly late that night and went to bed. And it just was a little more than I could handle. And on Monday morning when I woke up, I was sick. I could hardly get out of bed. I remember Sue and I talked it over, and we thought, I've been a good son, the best that I could be, and I've gone back and forth, and if I sleep in on Monday and go on Tuesday, that's just the best I can do. Wouldn't you know it? Yeah, you guessed. It was that Monday that she died, and I wasn't able to be there at her side when she passed away. Boy, I felt bad. I blamed myself. I felt guilty. I was not a good son. I hadn't done everything that I should have done for my mother. So many years ago now. A lot of time has come, and I have had a few years to look at it through a different perspective. And this is going to sound a little strange, but I've learned to be thankful for that experience. And here's why. I spent my life as a pastor. I cannot count how many people right as they passed away, or how many families I've been with that have lost a loved one. And something that I have noticed is that nearly all of those families, there are people within them that find a way to blame themselves because of the loss. Maybe they weren't there when their loved one died. Maybe they and their loved one weren't getting along at the time that they died. Maybe something else happened. Maybe they think they were not a good enough loved one to that person, a good enough spouse, a good enough child. I don't know what it is. It's different for everybody, but it's really common. It is so common that I found myself over the years in situations that were similar to that, when someone was bedfast and the family was gathered around, to sometimes go to another room in the house and call the family together and say this: I know you want to be the best that you can be for your loved one, and we know the direction this is headed. I want to tell you from personal experience that some of you may not be here at that moment. Maybe you just did an errand or something. Or some of you, for some other reason, may not be here. You're going to find a way to blame yourself and to feel guilty. And when you do feel like you have not done what you should do and feel like that, just remember, you're not alone. It's human nature for us to find a way during the sad times to blame ourselves and to put guilt on ourselves. And that's not necessary. You do the best that you can now while the person's alive, or the best that you can now during these days to live without that guilt. And when the time comes, know that you have been the best that you can be. And if you have failings, those are human shortfalls. We have limits. I could not have made the trip on that Monday. You might have not been able to do something else. that doesn't mean you're bad or you're a failure. Before I get off and finish this subject up, I want to say also, knowing something in our heads doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to feel it in our spirit, in our heart. For instance, my dad was much older. He was 88 when he passed away. 1 week or 10 days shy of being 89. He died about 3 years ago as I'm recording this. And you know what happened about 3 years ago? COVID. I was so afraid in the early days of COVID that I was going to kill my dad. I was so afraid, and listening to what the news said, how you had to handle it, how you had to mask. We had the shutdowns during that time. I did the obligatory good son thing. I went to visit my father regularly and stayed 7 feet away. He was on one side of the room, I was on the other side of the room. We would watch TV together, we would talk, I would leave, but no touch or anything during that time. You know what happened in the end? Dad caught COVID anyway, and he was one of those that didn't have any symptoms. I caught COVID and got sick. Dad got COVID, and he wouldn't even have known he had COVID had the rest of us in the family been testing because it was going through the family. But about the time everything started opening up again, he died of cancer. I regret that also. If I had known I wasn't going to kill him and that COVID was, he was going to be not have symptoms, I would have done that differently, but we just do the best we can. Just live the best you can right now. And forgive yourself. Well, it's about the middle of another week. In a few days, we'll get to come to church together again and worship our Lord. And you have the rest of this week to live in a way that is without regret. May God bless you.